My fiancée told me she wasn't ready to commit, but then asked me to wait. I smiled and said, "Of course." Right after that, I erased my social media presence and disappeared overseas. A month later, she was frantically texting everyone we knew, desperate to find out if anyone had heard from me. Have you ever experienced a moment when the world goes utterly silent? Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the suffocating, airless hush of a vacuum? That's exactly what happened to me last month. I was sitting in our favorite restaurant, the very place where I'd planned to finalize the wedding caterer, when Sarah dropped a bomb that seemed to freeze time itself. "I just think," she said, swirling her wine glass, "that things are moving too fast. I'm not sure I'm ready to commit right now." I stared at her. We'd been together for 5 years, engaged for 6 months. The wedding was scheduled in 3. We shared a house technically mine, with my name on every deed, every bill. Her name was only on a supplementary credit card. That I paid for. For half a decade, I'd been building a life with her, and now, just 100 feet from the finish line, she wanted to slam the brakes. "So, you're calling off the wedding?" I asked. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else entirely. No, not at all," she rushed to say, reaching across the table to place her hand on mine. Her touch felt foreign, wrong. "I just need a pause. I need you to wait for me while I figure things out. I love you, you know that. I just need to be sure. Can you do that for me? Can you wait?" Her friends Ashley and Megan, who'd joined us to help with wedding planning, nodded along sympathetically, their eyes wide with performative concern. Ashley piped up, "It's totally normal, Ben. Lots of women get cold feet. You just have to give her space to breathe." I looked into Sarah's eyes. She wore an earnest, pleading expression, but her gaze was already drifting elsewhere. She wasn't asking for space. She was asking for a safety net. She wanted to keep the ring, the title of fiancé, the security of knowing I'd be there, but also the freedom of a single woman, unburdened by real commitment. She wanted me to sit on a shelf like a toy she could return to once she'd finished playing elsewhere. And in that dead, airless silence, a decision crystallized not from emotion, but from cold, clear logic. A simple, clean, absolute resolution. I pulled my hand away, offered a small smile, and gave her the answer she wanted to hear. "Of course. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll wait." Relief flooded her face. She squeezed my arm, beaming. "Oh, thank you, baby. I knew you'd understand. You're the best." Ashley and Megan exchanged satisfied glances. Their mission was accomplished. The good, understanding boyfriend had been pacified. For the rest of dinner, they chatted excitedly about a girls' trip to Miami, scheduled for the very weekend that was supposed to be our wedding. A celebration of Sarah finding herself on the ashes of the future we'd built together. I sat there, nodding and smiling, paying for their expensive cocktails, while they toasted to her new chapter of consequence-free freedom. I was the best all right, the best damn fool they'd ever seen. But not for long. That night, after dropping them all off, I returned to our quiet house. My house, and got to work. There was no rage, no tears, just a calm, icy clarity. She wanted me to wait? Fine. She could wait. And see what came next. First, I moved financially. As a software developer, I'd spent the past 2 years building a personal app. 3 weeks earlier, it had been acquired by a major tech company, a life-changing sum of money. Sarah knew about the deal. In hindsight, I realized that windfall was the spark that ignited her sudden uncertainty. I called my financial advisor and transferred the entire amount into a series of irrevocable trusts and offshore accounts, completely untouchable. Then I went through our shared finances, canceled her supplementary credit card, closed the joint account she used for personal expenses, and contacted my lawyer to begin removing her name from the title of the car I'd gifted her 2 years prior for her birthday. Next, I went digital. I didn't just deactivate my social media, I permanently deleted every account. Instagram, Facebook, everything. Years of photos, memories, connections, gone with a few clicks. I backed up essential contacts, wiped my phone clean, and got a new number. Finally, I made my physical exit. I packed a single suitcase not with clothes, but with my hard drives, laptops, and all legal documents related to my company. I walked through the house one last time, taking in the remnants of our shared life. Her clothes in the closet, her makeup scattered across the bathroom counter, her little trinkets on the shelves. I didn't touch any of it. I just observed it like a museum exhibit, a life that no longer existed. On the kitchen counter, I left a single note. It read, "I'll wait." Then I walked out, got in my car, drove to the airport, and bought a one-way first-class ticket to a country on the opposite side of the globe. By the time Sarah woke up the next morning, ready to enjoy her newly claimed freedom, I was already a ghost. Update 1. I've been living in a quiet coastal town in Portugal for the past 6 weeks. I rented a villa overlooking the ocean. The internet is fast, the food is exquisite, and no one here knows my name. The silence has been the greatest gift, no drama. No expectations, just the rhythm of waves and the quiet hum of a life rebuilt. I wouldn't have known about the chaos I left behind if not for my brother Dan, the only person who knows where I am. We talk weekly, and he's been relaying Sarah's slow motion unraveling. It's been enlightening. According to Dan, the first week played out exactly as Sarah had hoped. She told everyone I was being incredibly supportive by giving her space. She and her friends went out nightly, racking up charges on a credit card they didn't realize had already been canceled. That bill must have been staggering. The first crack appeared that Friday. Sarah tried to buy a new dress, and her card was declined. She tried another, declined again. When she called the credit card company, they informed her the supplementary card had been terminated by the primary holder. Dan said she called him in a panic. "Do you know what's going on?" He played dumb. "I don't know, Sarah. Maybe you should talk to Ben." "I'm trying," she apparently shrieked. "He's not answering his phone." She spent that entire weekend trying to reach me. Texts bounced back as undelivered. Calls went straight to a disconnected number. She checked my socials, and that's when true panic set in. My entire digital footprint had vanished. The following week, she launched her campaign. She started texting mutual friends casually. "Hey, have you heard from Ben? He's being weird. Won't answer his phone." No one had. By week 2, her messages grew frantic. She began telling people I was missing, that she was worried something terrible had happened. She tried to frame herself as the devoted fiancée whose partner had vanished without warning. Some believed her. Her parents even filed a missing persons report. Police came to the house. They saw my car was gone, a suitcase missing, and concluded I'd left voluntarily. No signs of foul play. They told Sarah there was nothing they could do. The real turning point, Dan said, came when she used her key to enter the house. She expected to find me moping in the dark, heartbroken over her absence. Instead, she found everything exactly as she'd left it. Her belongings untouched. The house eerily intact. The only things missing were me, my computers, and the note on the counter. Dan said she called him hysterical. What does this mean? "I'll wait." Then he'll wait for what? Where is he? His reply was perfect. "I guess he's waiting for you to figure things out, Sarah. That's what you asked for, right?" Week 3 brought financial reckoning. The car I'd bought her was repossessed. Her parents had to cover the massive credit card debt she'd accumulated during her Freedom Week. Ashley and Megan, her loyal cheerleaders, began distancing themselves. Her drama was no longer entertaining. It was a liability. She showed up at my old office, asking former colleagues if they knew my whereabouts. They didn't. I'd quit the day the buyout closed. She went to my parents' house, and my father told her in no uncertain terms that she was no longer welcome. By the end of the first month, she was a pariah in our social circle. Everyone knew the truth. She'd tried to play a game and lost spectacularly. The story circulating was that she'd driven away her wealthy fiancé with entitlement and greed. She'd fumbled the biggest opportunity of her life. Update 2. 3 months have passed. Autumn in Portugal is breathtaking. I've launched a small consulting firm, interesting work I can do from anywhere. I've made a few friends, mostly fellow expats. I'm not waiting for anything. I'm living. Dan called last week with the latest from back home. Sarah's situation has only worsened in predictable ways. After being shunned by our old circle, she tried to reinvent herself, moved out of her parents' house and into a tiny apartment with Ashley. That lasted 2 months. According to Dan, via a friend of a friend, it ended in a screaming match over rent. Sarah expected Ashley to cover her share as a loan until she got back on her feet. Ashley, tired of bankrolling her delusions, kicked her out. So Sarah moved back in with her parents again. And she finally got a real job. No more vague, part-time gigs that were really just hobbies. She's now a hostess at a chain restaurant, the very same one we used to frequent when we first started dating. The irony is almost poetic. Most telling is the new narrative she's spinning. She's no longer the worried fiancée. Now, she's the victim of a cruel, manipulative man who abandoned her without cause. She tells people I became secretive and controlling after my sudden wealth, that I vanished to dodge my responsibilities to her. But it's not working. Too many people know the truth. Too many were at that dinner. Too many received her unhinged, desperate texts in the weeks that followed. Dan told me about a particularly humiliating incident a few weeks ago. She ran into a group of our old friends at a bar and tried to insert herself into their conversation, launching into her sob story about how I ghosted her. Mark, one of my college friends, finally cut her off mid-sentence. "Sarah, we were all there. We heard you. You told him to wait. You wanted to pause the engagement so you could go on a girls' trip to Miami. You did this to yourself. Ben's not the bad guy. He just gave you exactly what you asked for." Dan said the whole group just stared at her. She completely unraveled, crying, yelling that no one understood, that they were all taking my side. She caused such a scene that the bar staff kicked her out. Ashley and Megan have now fully cut ties. They're telling everyone Sarah is toxic and that they tried to warn her. Conveniently, they've erased their own roles as her chief enablers, now throwing her under the bus to salvage their own reputations. It must be a lonely existence when you've burned every bridge you've ever crossed. She thought she was playing chess. She didn't realize I wasn't even on the board. I just knocked the whole thing over and walked away. Final update. It's been a year. I'm still in Portugal, now living in a larger place in Lisbon. My business is thriving. I'm dating a local architect, a serious, grounded woman. It's real, it's peaceful, it's everything my old life wasn't. I went home for Christmas last year, the first time since I left. I stayed 2 weeks. It felt like visiting a town you once lived in, only to find it had moved on without you, exactly as I'd hoped. I didn't see Sarah. I avoided places she might frequent. But I heard plenty about her. Oh, did I ever. Our breakup has become a local legend. The girl who asked a ghost to wait. Her life hasn't improved. Still living with her parents, still working at the restaurant. All her attempts to regain sympathy have failed. She's become a cautionary tale. My brother shared the final pathetic chapter so far. About 2 months ago, she hired a low-tier, no-win, no-fee lawyer and tried to sue me for breach of promise and emotional distress. She claimed our engagement was a verbal contract and that my disappearance had cost her years of her life and potential earning power. My lawyer, the same one who helped me secure my assets, received the letter. He told me he actually laughed out loud when he read it. His one-page response included a signed, notarized affidavit from our wedding planner detailing the dinner where Sarah asked me to wait, a copy of the 400 restaurant receipt from that night, the bill for her and her friends' celebration. The closing paragraph was simple. Mr. My name has in fact honored Ms. her name's request. He has waited. He is still waiting. He is simply doing so from a different continent and will continue to wait indefinitely. We wish her the best in her own period of waiting. She dropped the lawsuit the next day. Her lawyer probably told her she had a snowball's chance in hell of winning. And that's truly the end of the story. No dramatic confrontation, no tearful reunion, no grand speech where I finally tell her off to her face. My revenge wasn't about spectacle. It was my absence. The vast, silent void I left in her life where a future used to be. She wanted to put me on pause, to treat me like a convenience she could access whenever she felt ready. She thought her request for me to wait was a power move, a way to control the narrative. She didn't realize it was the last decision she'd ever make in our relationship. I let her words hang in the air, and then I built an entirely new world in the silence that followed. She's still waiting.